Well, I think that the first thing right now, it's such a multi-layered question, and it's such a multi-layered need for reform. Not reform, that's about it, because I think that's one of the biggest things, is people accept that it's not about reform, because the system, the government system, it's not broken, it's working exactly how it was supposed to, and that's the problem. This is a system that was made to oppress and was made to criminalize based on race, and it's not broken. That's exactly what it's meant to do, but that's the issue. So I think that one of the biggest things now, especially with like the demands that's happening, is defunding the police. And I think people don't realize what that means. People don't realize that defunding the police doesn't mean like, all right, all the police are fired, purge. It's about like taking those funds, those millions of dollars, and making it so that when you're having a domestic situation, you can have a counselor come instead of a person with a gun. Like when you're having a mental health crisis or issues like that, or when a child needs help, there can be actual solutions, and like reallocating that money into the community, and not community policing, not reform, not more body cameras, because that's just putting more and more money into police. Police need to be defunded, and the money needs to be stripped out of there. And like, I think something that's going to be tricky is people are going to try and just create a new police force and give it a new name and be like the community, and it's just going to be the same thing. So I think it's definitely like a long fight. But I think.
What do you say to the people who say that if you defund the police, then crime is going to go up?
I don't believe that's true, first of all. And I think the argument that murderers are running around the street if we don't have police is incredibly ironic, considering that the police are murderers running around the street. But I think that a lot of crime happens just
Real
because.
quick, Rob, just turn the volume down. I think I figured out on your phone. Do you have headphones you can plug up since you're using the phone?
Oh, okay.
Because it's reverberating through. That's big.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How about just mute?
All right.
I think that a lot of like very few crime happens because people are like, I just want to be a criminal. There are the very select few, but most crime happens because of some other reason, because people are lacking in some way. So if we can make a society that's more equitable, where we have mental health resources so people don't need to get to the point where they're so ill that they don't have housing and that they're committing crimes, or so people have food and proper ability for housing and employment so they don't need to go to other means to take care of themselves and their families. I think that when looking at punishment of crime, it's like if you have a tree that's poisonous and you just take the apple off, like you still have the entire poisonous tree. So if you actually get to the root of it and solve what's happening there and why the tree is poisonous, you can you don't have to worry about just continuously trying to pick apples up. It's like trying to punish crime instead of thinking about why crime is occurring is treating a symptom of the actual issue. And it's like trying to give Advil to a person with cancer. That doesn't do anything. Right. It's not going to be sustainable. So,
and don't take this as a slight on your generation, but for a microwave generation like your age group is, that needs instant gratification, like everything you're talking about right now takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of digging and work on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do young people want to have? What do they want next month to look like? Like, do we keep protesting? Do we keep marching? Is it really going to be the vote? Is it going to be, do we just have anarchy?
Well, I think something that's important is look at, we talk about the importance of voting and the importance of that, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at from very liberal to very conservative right now in our political realm, who is on the streets with us? Very few people, Like, I love our mayor. I love Bernie Sanders. I love them. But where are they? Even like Mitt Romney posted a selfie protesting. Mm-hmm. Where are our people who are supposed to be our leaders? Mm-hmm. So I think one of the biggest things right now is there needs to, especially in Atlanta, like they're working on this now, is they're realizing like there's so much like piss and vinegar in Atlanta, it needs to be organized. So they're trying to do that. But it's about getting promises and getting pledges from these people in power, not saying like, I hear you and I stand with you. Okay, what are you signing into action? What are you working on? What can we what can we hold you accountable for? And I think that's one of the biggest things is like politicians want to make everything sound really fancy and fuzzy and say vote, vote, vote. But then why aren't we talking about voter suppression? Like, why aren't we talking about the fact that yesterday at my voting location in next to Walton High School, there was no line?
Don't tell me that.
Why? Like, that's not
Don't tell me that. It took me 4 hours to vote yesterday.
I passed several locations near my house. Zip. But I live in a mayonnaise jar, you know? And so it's not an accident. And I think that it's just about holding politicians accountable. And like, those are the people who actually can be taking action. And like, a lot of people want to be like, well, it's not that easy. There's stuff behind the scenes, da 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 da. But when you're a leader, it's your responsibility to come out and say, here is what I'm working on. This is what's happening behind the scenes, but I'm working to represent y'all on this, 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 and this, and you can hold me accountable. And meet with the community. And, you know, we tweet them all the time, like, we'll be here at 6 p.m., we'll be da-da-da this p.m., like, we're meeting at the city capitol, da-da-da-da, like, come stand with us. Come stand with the people that you're supposed to represent and hear the voices of these incredible Black activists who have done the work and have put in the work to make these steps, you know, like take these steps, like before the protesting was happening.
Right.
And I think that, you know, instant gratification, we are definitely a generation that likes that, and it's not going to happen that easily or that quickly. But I think that there's, you know, it's like what we were saying earlier. We have to tell our politicians and tell our people who are our leaders, even though the system is kind of effed, you're not doing enough. Do better. You know, like, you need to do more. Or else.
Deuces.
It's such a multifaceted question.
Oh yeah, I know it. It's it's an unfair question because I know there's so many ways to answer that because everybody wants different things, different groups, different people, etc. But I just really want to know from, you know, I want to hear from you too. What does that look like? Because one of the things that Milson and I talked about was that night you guys were downtown Atlanta on that Friday when everything went crazy. Killer Mike and T.I. came on and they pleaded to, you know, everybody to go home and not to destroy the city. And what we were saying though, and Chance, you actually mentioned it too, I think you're the one who started off the conversation between me and my wife though, is that those people might be too old now for this younger generation. You know what I mean? Like Killer Mike, like nobody's listening to Killer Mike like that anymore. A lot of your friends don't even know who the hell he is. So it's kind of like, who is this dude telling us, you know? So there's a disconnect between the younger generations and what older leadership believes this is the way you're supposed to do it. And what I've found lately is that young people seem so ready to change the system tomorrow that when you tell them things like voting, a lot of them don't want to hear it because they're like, well, hell, our vote never did count anyway. Like, we've been trying to vote since the 60s or even before that, but things are still the same. We still have George Floyd's dying in the street. So it's just one of those questions of, you know, what do we really want? And how do young people and old people, how do we bridge that gap of, you know, leadership? Because what I think right now is all the young people have the energy for the movement, but the older people might have the wisdom. But making those two combine is the part that I think is the big struggle right now.
I think the voting has to stop being the prime focus, honestly. I think that regardless, obviously, you know, Donald Trump's a different story, but especially in terms of local government, regardless of who we have in office, like, we're gonna have to push. And so, like, to say, like, get out and vote if you want to make a change is giving off, like, an air of, like, that's how we do it and that's all you got. And I don't think that that's, like, productive. And I think a lot of people who, like, are really on the, like, the younger generation's really on the more radical side is, like, you're, like, that doesn't make any sense. You know, we're being suppressed. We're being, like, we can't vote anyway. And, like, especially with disenfrancenfranchisement, like, what are you going to do?
It's taking us 4 hours to vote.
And with like Luis, for example, like,
not even 4 hours.
Oh, wait, you can't. You have a criminal record, you know?
Yeah.
It's in everything. I tried to go get my tag done today for my car, and I had to stand in line. I was thinking about it today. I was pissed because I was standing in line to do my tag, and there's a kiosk in there that you can use to renew it. So I went to the front of the line and was like, is everybody in this line waiting for this kiosk? And the people in line were telling me like, no, this line is for everything, and you just stand in it till you get to the front, and then the lady tells you where to go. And in my head, I'm like, why? Who's organizing stuff like this on this side of the county? Because when I lived on the other side of the county, I never dealt with that. And why are we dealing with it here? I was talking to my mom was like, just drive up to the Canton Road tag office. You'll be out of there in 5 minutes. And I was like, but the principle is I shouldn't have to drive across the county to get something done effectively. And it's not that it can't be done effectively on this side, but why are we shoehorning a tag office into the South Cobb police annex? So it's a police station, a fire station, a tag office. There's no place to sit. People are lined up outside, no air conditioning because it's 8 people inside and then the rest of the line goes outside. But if you go to the Canton Road tag office, you go in, you take a number, and you sit down. I didn't expect the NFL to say that they'll support players in protests. Like, I was surprised by that. I was surprised by the announcement today or yesterday about the NASCAR banning the Confederate flag. I don't know if you guys heard that. The Marine Corps also banned the Confederate flag, and I didn't expect these different places across the country to start pulling down statues. Like, those are some things, I mean, they're just superficial, but some things I didn't expect to start happening from this. Like,
No, you're right. I agree with those.
Thought of it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rob.
I feel like they should have been happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that it is, it's like they're obviously very small victories, but like they're important to acknowledge. And like, I don't want to get ahead of myself and saying like, oh, this is going to be different, than the past X amount of times of like big protest swells. But there are things that are happening that it's like,
yeah. There's a list. I actually have a list. Somebody compiled it on social media. See, social media is good sometimes, but somebody compiled a list of all the good things that's come out of this so far. And it was a pretty lengthy list. And I said, you know what? Hey, progress is progress, man. The one thing about Goodell, though, in the NFL, though, Chance, is one, I don't think he would have done it had not all these other big businesses come out.
That's what I'm saying. It's completely superficial.
It's all about money, right? It's all about, okay, people are going to spend their money with their allies, you know what I mean? So, of course, Annabelle had to come out and say something. And he also didn't even make the statement until after several big name players requested that he do it. So it wasn't even organic. It was more like requested. But hey, we got to ask y'all.
It may not be an entirely bad thing. Like, it may be like, there are certain people who, like Rob said, you can't change.
Right.
So you might have to kind of peer pressure them into it.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Very true.